Hello and welcome to Decrypting Relationships with myself, Tolola Falashe, and
Olive Benson, hello again.
hey, how you doing? How's it going?
I'm excited today. You
I
can
know.
hear it in my voice.
Fantastic, fantastic. Before we go any further, why don't you give us our disclaimer?
As most of you are aware of by now, we are not qualified to give relationship advice in the sense that we are not trained or certified in any relationship matters. We are just two individuals who are being happily married in our own homes, and we have learned a few things over the years which we thought we could share with people out there, and hopefully bless people with those knowledge and those experiences. So that's really what brought us together. It's just a passion to share from our life stories, our truths, and that's really who we are and what we're about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because Olu, I don't think there is ever a time when you cannot contribute, right? So that's what we're doing. We're bringing our own little contribution
Yeah.
using this platform. So, as Olu said, we are sharing our experiences and some of the things that have worked for us. So hopefully you find a lot of value. And
Not
if you
just the ones
do,
that have worked, even the ones that haven't worked.
absolutely,
Lesson learned.
absolutely. So lesson learned, yeah, absolutely. So if you get any value, please share and spread the word. And again, please, we would love to hear from you. Let us hear from you. Let us hear how this podcast has had an impact, in your life, because that will be very useful for us, and it will help us to continue to bring, fresh content for you. Excellent. So, Olu.
Yes, sir.
Today we are talking about personal friends and interests, socializing, when you have social friends and interests, things like that. Um, why is this important? Let's start with that question. Why is it important to look at this area?
I think it's important in the sense that when two people come together, the idea is for you to grow and embark on this new journey of life. But at the same time, I'm cognizant of the fact that before you came together, you both had your individual lives that you were living, and that would include your group of friends, your social interests, and whatever it was you got up to before you came together. And the idea behind talking about this is the fact that we want to encourage people to be true. Like we've always said, you need to be true to yourself in any relationship. And taking this forward, the idea is whatever things you were doing before you became a couple with somebody, you don't necessarily have to just sever them out of your life. If there were things that you did because you enjoyed doing them, then the more reason why you should bring them into a relationship, because whomever you're going with probably saw you. That was part of what completed you to become that joyful, or whatever personality these other activities in your life made you to be before they were attracted to you. And I wanted to be just careful not to think that once I have a partner or have somebody, then everything else stops because it's just you and I. So we'll break that down as we go on, but that's really what's behind it. That don't leave behind the things that made who you are or who you were before you met your partner, all in a bid to just make that one relationship work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because prior to that, you've developed relationships with other people. You've had friendships, significant friendships as well in many cases. And I think the reason why we're bringing this today is so that we can address this particular detail and just discuss the relevance and the impact it can have going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, and how healthy can actually make your relationship, depending on how it's handled. And it's all about discussing your likes and your dislikes and what you like or what makes you happy with your partner. So you're able to agree on the middle ground before you sever everything else. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. So let's start here. Let me pose a scenario. So listeners, what we're talking about here is we're talking about that courting stage, that stage where you are discovering the person that potentially you're going to, take very seriously, relationship wise,
Yeah.
perhaps engagement, marriage is on the card potentially, So,
Yeah.
say for example, because let me use a story that I know. So there's a guy and a girl.
Hmm.
The guy is very extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
He's the life of the party,
Mm-hmm.
and his friends are very similar, very loud and a little
Mm-hmm.
bit boisterous. You understand? Now, she is a little bit more introverted, and she doesn't appreciate the the rowdy nature of his friends. You know,
Okay.
um, how do we approach a situation like this?
The first thing I'll ask myself, or I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask the girl, should
Mm-hmm.
she make that an issue, will be that under what circumstance did you meet this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Because most times you meet people socially. I'm actually be the noise that makes the poor guy, in this case, for lack of a better word, stand out
Mm-hmm.
to draw the girl's attention to him. He
Mm-hmm.
was probably being boisterous in a social setting, and the girl caught the guy's attention, or the guy caught the girl's attention. So it's a very interesting, and this is all about being open and honest about what we're getting into.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we want to go, I've witnessed a few instances where people go into a relationship with the mind of changing the person that
Yep.
they want to get into a relationship with. And it's the most dangerous thing to set out to do.
Absolutely.
In as much as none of us are perfect, I'm not saying whomever you meet is going to be 100% when you meet them. There's a difference between embellishing what's there and bringing out the best in each other, and setting out to change this person, especially things that are really core about their personalities. If you meet a boisterous person, he's just boisterous. I don't know if anything will calm them down, except you extract them from their very healthy environment to an environment where they do not know. But that would always come back to the surface, because once they get comfortable in the new environment, that is their person. That's who they are. So it will be very unfair. Maybe the rowdiness, you might think, okay, maybe with maturity, they'll calm down or whatever. But for you to now start saying, oh, those are your friends, you guys are too loud, I think it would be better if you just walked on by, if you can't deal with it, because those are his friends, and guys are very loyal to their friends. That's what I've understood.
Yeah.
They are very loyal to their friends. So if you start dissing his friends before you even go on board, that is a no-no. Personally, I'll say the girl should just walk on by.
That's very, very good point. And you're absolutely right. I didn't state the circumstances or the occasion that led to them coming together, right? So this guy spotted the girl, and he was head over heels in love, and he was after her.
He was tenacious.
What's the word? I don't even know what the words they use these days. We used to call it like toasting and wooing and, approaching, but whatever. He approached her hard, and he wasn't ready to take no for an answer. Eventually, he won her over, won her heart, but like I said,
did she never see him whilst he was trying to woo her? I'm sure he took her to dinner and whatnot. Did she never see him as he was, or what happened? Because for someone with that personality, it's very difficult to miss it.
No. It's not easy to miss at all.
Exactly. It will be difficult to miss it. So I still go back to the fact that the girl must have deliberately turned a blind eye, saying, oh, he's so fine. He's probably spending all this money on me. He really likes him. And then when it comes to the reality of, you're thinking, oh, the noise. Because for someone to be so persistent, they must have some form of tenacity and some boisterousity about them. But then to go to that level. So that was already a green or a red alert that this guy will be a persistent person. So that was my take on it.
No, which is good. And I think you also made the point that we've been making from the start of, the podcast, which is clear and open communication. That's just the name of the game. That's the foolproof approach, isn't it, to a healthy relationship? And I think having that open conversation, is always very important.
I think besides the communication in this regard, the scenario you just set up, the other thing that I would say is each individual, which is why at the beginning of broadcasting, we did mention you writing down the things that matter to you. The things are a no-no. If you're someone who cannot deal with a very loud person, you shouldn't even entertain that, because it's difficult to ask someone who is naturally like that to calm down. They're just very energetic, they're on the go all the time. I think we mentioned it in terms of, understanding your aspirations. I think was in one of those episodes that if you're somebody, you need to be jump started 3-4 times before you even think of something. You're married to somebody, or you're having a relation with somebody who's just on the go, and you need to calm them down a bit. It's going to be a difficult one. And I think this is another scenario like that.
Absolutely. Do you remember a track in the 80s called...
Oh dear, now you're trying to give my age away.
Heart's Not So Smart.
No, you fall for who you fall for.
Heart's Not So Smart. Do you know that song?
I remember. It's very old school.
It goes where it should not go. And I think, honestly speaking, yes, we are strong advocates for having your values written down, very clear, making sure, you don't compromise on that. But I think the reality is that even with all the best intentions, sometimes we have situations like this that spring up. And like you said, it's not like she didn't know, she knew, because I asked her.
Don't stress the poor guy.
I said, but the guy was, she said, yeah, I know. But, after a while, it just became unbearable.
Became annoying.
It became unbearable.
So the girl was not true to herself.
Or unless, sometimes when the guy is pursuing hard, he promises heaven and earth, and he...
That I'll change my person.
Yeah, say again, you what?
You should run a mile if somebody promises to change their personality. Especially when it's surrounded by equally boisterous people. Then that is not going to happen.
Interesting. What other scenarios do you sort of like, are you... Do you know about?
I'm not really a scenario-based person. I think I just like to speak from my experience, because I was in a very social person when I met my partner, my husband at the time. And so in my case, it wasn't anything that needed we just enjoyed spending time with each other. Whether we were apart, we were fine. Whether we were together, we were fine. But I think the other thing I realized is, because now I'm a bit older, I'm seeing the younger generation where they make the effort to do like date nights, and they make an effort to actually take each other out on a particular night of the week, and they do all of those. But what I've also come to realize is I'm starting to see people who say, oh, I'm going away for the weekend with my girlfriends. And my husband too, he has his own friends, and he's going away, they're traveling, and they're going taking the weekend off or whatever. And then there's a family time. So that's where I think my head really was at initially, to say, if this setup works for you, then you guys need to agree or discuss it, not necessarily agree, because life does change. Life throws you a curveball, and sometimes some of the things you set out for don't really materialize. But if these are your preferences, these are things that need to be discussed. Because you also have on the other extreme, whereby the partner, some people just like to be like together, like, what I'm saying, like, this is love, we need to be together. And if we're not physically together, I need to know where your whereabouts, and I think that could be bordering on controlling. So each person needs to figure out what makes me happy. And on top of that, if you're the kind of person that enjoys spending time with your circle of friends, it doesn't mean you love your partner any less. We're talking even during your courtship phase, and taking that further into engagement and marriage, or however far you want to take it. That you just need to make sure that these things are understood, so the other person doesn't feel, oh, you're always spending time with your friends. There has to be a balance too, because If all you do is, oh, I'm going out with so-and-so friend, oh, I'm going out with so-and-so friend, and the partner is there, is like, oh, I literally have to book a time in your calendar to get time with you, that could also be a problem.
Absolutely. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. So,
what will be your ideal or your take or views on it?
no, I guess, as you were speaking, and talking about having that conversation, we have date nights, but then we also have, times when we will be with our friends and do our own thing, Um, I think it's definitely a very useful conversation to have, and I think also it, it I think it's also. I think what I'm trying to say is that sometimes these conversations don't come up. It doesn't naturally. Sometimes it's not for some people. It doesn't come up naturally. Oh, let's just talk about blah blah blah. So, and I think for me, I it's important to have those talks and to consciously think about those topics.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to do so.
This is where we're giving the pointers on, from our experience, what we've learned. Like we said, not everything we're talking about is not necessarily everything we did right. We probably, in hindsight, realize, oh, maybe we could have talked about it, because this is where the knowledge or the experience comes from. That, oh, could I have done this better? Of course, should we have, could we have talked about this to understand where we stood in terms of what we were doing in any particular area? And that is really what this platform is for, to say, please don't just bury your head in the sand to say, I'm so madly in love, I can't think. You need to think whilst you're in love and think of the things that matter and talk about the things that actually matter too. Because trust me, when you eventually get over the honeymoon phase, like they call it, no matter how long that lasts, so many other things have come on board that you have to deal with. And this is where all the things that you've discussed always come in handy to say, oh, wow, okay, we share the same vision, we share the same dream with regards to so and so on. We have an understanding on so and so area in so and so area. So yeah.
And I think it's also worth mentioning that, well, in my experience, let me share my own experience. I have seen situations where the people you were close to before marriage do not always, there's no guarantee they'll still be close to you after marriage, because you could make new friends, new acquaintances, and that's fine. I think that's fine. I've seen that work because there are different seasons in life, and sometimes certain people will be in your life at a particular season and they will be very close to you.
Yeah.
And once you enter a new season, I think it's worth mentioning that it should be expected that not everybody will be in that new season with you.
But I think that's just life, because looking at it, before you even met anybody, the friendships you cultivated when you were in primary school were not the ones that you had in secondary, and then they were surely not the ones you had in university. And post-university, when you started working, a lot of them drifted off, and that is just how life will be.
Yeah.
But I think the point we're trying to make here is that don't make it mandatory for any or either for coming from either partner to say you have to disconnect yourself from so and so. That is where it becomes unhealthy. But if life happens and these relationships fizzle out and you cultivate new ones, then that's life. But not because your partner said so, because that is not healthy. If it's something that you had no choice in, or it wasn't something that you willingly wanted to do, because at some point resentment will set in. Maybe there are things that you used to do with this particular person, and a season in your life comes and, oh, I wish so and so were here. We would have done this together. And if they were not there because you were told to disconnect from them, you become resentful towards your partner. And that is the bit that we're trying to say. Please don't make it a rule to say you cannot see so and so anymore. You cannot, because we're now together. Let's just embrace each other's interests, embrace their lifestyles, and respect them for the relationships that they have. If there are any unhealthy ones, this is where praying comes into it. We can't emphasize prayers enough. you have to go on your knees and pray if you think a relationship is unhealthy. It's not for you to say, and you have to sever. Because let God handle whatever unhealthy relationships are being, cultivated by your partner. Then he or she doesn't have any beef with you. So
absolutely.
it wasn't because you instructed. It's because God severed it. So let them take it up with God. So please, don't underestimate the power of taking everything that looks really beyond you to God. I'm a living testimony of doing that on so many occasions, and I'm happier for it. So please,
absolutely,
let's remember to pray. Yeah,
absolutely. Prayer is key. Pray. That is our anchor. Do you know what I mean? Our safety, always a good safety point. All right. I know a case where a guy and a girl, we're exploring, dating and, really thinking about taking it seriously and everything. And then the girl goes, listen, my friends and I have an agreement that, before I go serious with you, they need to meet you at a particular setting. And if they all approve, then we can go forward. And if they don't, that would be difficult. Have you heard that such? Have you?
I heard, but I've never been in that situation.
No.
I think it's all about loyalty to their friends, but it could be misguided sometimes. This is why each person has to be wise, because such could be misguided. Because your friends, the reason I kind of laughed out loud was the fact that in the instances that I've heard this happen, the vetting friends are not even in any relationship for them to know what works. So you have the single girls or single boys who are advised, trying to vet whether or not this person works for you, as someone who's already in a relationship and who's starting to understand what being, selfless means, what being, what thinking about somebody else is about, and what's putting somebody else's interests, before yours and along with yours and whatever. And all they've ever done was me. And they're trying to tell you that, I don't know how that works. I really don't know how that will work. And that's my thing about it. If there were mature people who've been in relationships or who are in relationships, who can guide, say, I'm seeing some telltale signs from experience about this person, maybe you should check it out or, look deeper. Fine, but not on the premise of, she's not looking fine. She doesn't look fit. She doesn't smile good. He doesn't dress well. Because really, what can they tell you when they're not even in any relationship themselves?
And that's a good point, because I guess it now goes to the, like we always say, we have to qualify who we're listening to, and that's quite important. Okay, cool.
So let me throw something back at you.
Go on then.
So you have your group of friends and your spouse, or I keep saying spouse, your partner has hers. And there is a situation whereby the web of friends, there's it's kind of intermingled. So there's a connection, so to speak. If you understand what I'm saying. So there's a friend, or there are a few friends who are friends of both of you. And then you have those who are not friends to either of you, that just one, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, one or the other.
They have this, what do we call this? Is it the Venn graph or something?
The Zen diagram.
No, it was the Venn graph.
Okay.
Where you have overlapping circles. Yeah. I'm sorry if nobody understands what Venn is. It goes to show how old I am. So in that situation, how do you think that circle, that whole setup could be best managed? Because you want to make sure that you are doing the best by all friends. So when you now become a couple, some people don't feel left out because of the lack of commonality, if you understand what I'm saying. Because I've been in situations, I've been privileged to hear of situations whereby, at least just in my daughter's lives, where you have a friend who is connected to another group of friends, so it becomes like this endless chain. And when they're doing something and you are not part of the next circle, they feel left out. So for that to also be a healthy thing, how do you think such relationships can be best managed?
Right. Well, I think, it always comes down to clear communication, isn't it? And
Mm,
understanding what's going on. Because so if I'm hearing you right, say for example, when Falaki and I were dating,
mm-hmm.
we had mutual friends, right?
Yeah,
And but I also had friends she didn't really know, and then she had friends I didn't really know, type
exactly.
thing.
You got
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, I think that's
So
the word I was struggling with, mutual.
yeah. So we have
I
mutual
use Venn
friends. Yeah.
diagram.
Yeah. No, I knew what you were talking about. I was listening. And and I think it's really about, once we start to, so let me give you another example, right? So there was a couple that for like I was close to. I knew both of them through her.
Okay.
And I sort of became friendly with the other guy,
Mm,
with the guy. So it was Falaka's friend and her boyfriend, right? So I was now kind of like, yeah, cool. Let's get to know you better, the guy.
mm,
But eventually, I found it quite difficult because I think the guy, had his ways.
mm.
That I'll give you an example. I think one time I asked him a question and his response was not very. It was bordering on being very rude. You
Oh,
understand? And he didn't really see it as being rude, And
okay.
so I just felt, look, I don't like hanging around people who are not. This was the younger me. Now I think I'm a little bit more, sort of like tolerance. But anyway, so I just made sure that I made for like very aware
Mm,
that this is how I felt. As a
okay.
matter of fact, another friend, a mutual friend, Falake's friend and I was mutual, you know, said she didn't really like she said to me, I didn't really like the way he spoke to you the other day about such and such and such. So which
Oh,
actually confirmed how I felt. So
yeah.
all I had to do was, just say to Falake, look, this is the situation. I try to understand, but rather than being in an awkward situation every time he's
Mm,
around, obviously, um, if you have a function you have to go to, and if I'm not really up
mm.
to it, mm, you know, don't read too much into it. This is the
Into
reason.
it.
You understand?
Okay.
I don't feel like doing a lot of work mentally
Yeah.
and emotionally,
Yeah.
So can you excuse me at times like that? Just, and then of course we have that kind of openness. We can
Mm-hmm.
laugh about it because obviously if I'm not emotionally aware, it could
Yeah.
be a real issue, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if I'm
Yeah.
emotionally aware, which takes time, takes a lot of work, then we could make it light and make it quite practical, and
Yeah.
because then it just helps rather than getting prickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm glad the way you handled that, because
Mm.
one of the things that came to mind was which your scenario was just perfect. Because my next question will then be, would you under any circumstance feel compelled to ask for lake, or would you have felt compelled to ask for lake to discontinue that relationship off the back of how you feel, or then sorry, how you felt about this person? Because this is another scenario that could easily lead to some form of friction in a relationship, that I'm not getting on with this person and I don't think you should get on with them or go on with them anymore. Would you ever contemplate doing that? Should
I think
you?
that's a brilliant question. Why? Because again, it goes down to the ego and emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, those are the
Um,
things we're talking about here. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wouldn't. And the reason being,
Okay.
she knew her friend and the guy before she met me, right? You understand?
Okay.
And I think, you know, I would allow her the freedom to spend as much or as little time as she wants with the couple, you know.
Okay.
Um, but unless if the guy did something that was really out of order. You understand? And
Mm.
it just really depends. I think Falak and I would have had to agree what out of order really means, right? And
Yeah.
once we
Mm-hmm.
agree, oh yeah, that is actually out of order, then
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't so much say, I ban you from, because you can't ban people from being friends with other people. But then you
But
could,
unfortunately, people do, which is why I was pushing for this line of conversation
right?
too.
You can't,
That
you
you
can't
find
do
if I
that.
don't get on with this person and we're having nothing to do with them
Yeah,
anymore,
no, no,
that
no,
is
no.
it. It's a done deal. No negotiations, no discussion. I am saying it. We're not going there anymore. We're not seeing them anymore. It's end off.
And I think that's actually quite. There's a level of insecurity when people start doing that, and I'm just being brutally
Thank you.
honest.
You touched on the big word.
Yeah.
Thank you. So please carry on.
Yeah, no, because I just think, again, we've always said it. We start with ourselves. We look in the mirror first and foremost, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
if I feel secure in myself, I should be able to say, you know what, that guy, I didn't like. Okay, maybe it was a one-off, but if there's 2, 3 different situations where I saw a pattern, I'd be like, yo, this dude, psh, I really don't have time for this. You understand? And I would
Yeah.
rather, watch paint dry than spend time, you know. you
You must be
So
a very good painter.
sorry, say that again.
You must be a very good painter if you rather watch the paint.
So but no, short answer is, I mean, I don't think it's healthy to demand, that from her, because
Yeah.
there's certain things that, for like I would see, in that friendship that
Yeah.
I would never see, or may have happened in the past that I would never maybe fully appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my position.
And I think this is where the issue of respect also comes into it, because, like you said, you have to respect the fact that she knew this couple before she even met you.
Yes.
And and because you trust the person of your wife, well, at the time your partner, you were mature enough to say there was a reason why she was drawn to them anyway, and because I trust her, judgment, whatever it was that she found in that relationship as fulfilling, she had a right to carry on, as opposed
Absolutely.
to we're done because I don't get on with them. So yeah, so that's another thing that we want to encourage people to be bold enough to discuss.
Yes.
Should you find yourself in a position where there's a bit of a misplaced understanding or misplaced loyalty, so to speak, towards a particular friendship, you need to be able to be honest to say, this doesn't work for me. If it works for you, fine, I respect you, and if you're happy with it, fine. But if it doesn't work for me, I have a right to cut away. And in your case, your wife would have been wrong to say, "Oh, they're my friends. We have to, we have to be friends by hook or by crook." So yeah, so it's a matter of respecting each other's wishes and each other's person, and just letting each person be without thinking, if I want this, then we have to do it together. And so thank you for that, Tolu.
No, it's like we say, we sharing experiences, right? So that's been some of the experience. And the
And I
funny,
think on that note, actually, Tolu, we've run out of time. We've had so much fun.
we have. Let us be consistent and disciplined.
Thank you.
So, what's your takeaway before we go?
I think we kind of said most of what needed to be said. Well,
just in one statement, takeaway.
Please just respect each other's what's the word now? Each other's preferences, so to speak. And that's a very high level word in terms of friendship, their social preferences, their relational preferences. Just try and respect them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for me, I think very similar. What the statement that I had in my head was, let's treat each other like adults, right? And I think it's important to do so. Just because we're dating, we're exploring, whatever it is that we're doing, we are still very much adults, and it's important to respect. We've always said that, always mentioned that. Let's respect the judgment. Let's respect the history that people have with our potential spouses have with their friends, and express how we feel calmly, and respectfully. I think I think that's because socially things can get very entangled. So yeah, fantastic. So Olu,
Yes, sir.
That's a wrap.
It is.
Until next time.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and take good care of yourself.
Yes, be safe, and we wish you healthy relationships. Bye for now.
Bye bye.